Oh, yeah, oh, we're
You're
gonna,
ready to. Just
okay, I'm ready when,
Okay. Give me just a moment.
I didn't want- we have to be so formal. So we have to be so formal. Good morning. Today we are here to discuss the superintendent search for services, our firm. The board received our packets last Thursday and Friday, I believe, and we have since then scored an evaluation score sheet from the 6 companies. Mr. Rick Collins, would you like to come and walk us through the next step?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's okay, I was just gonna say.
That's fine.
Okay. Good morning, board members. So today, I'm just gonna do a brief introduction for my recording. Go over one thing I wanna mention, and then I'll turn it over to y'all to have discussion if you like. Today is April 16th, 2019. This is the evaluation meeting for RFP 3748RC, Superintendent Search Services. We received 6 responsive proposals for this RFP. I just want to remind you to not interject any personal feelings or make any personal comments during this evaluation. You are to evaluate these proposals received using the criteria as listed in the RFP document. Good morning. With that, I will turn it over to the board if y'all have any discussion about the proposals. I have a sign-in sheet that Mr. Gibbs is going to pass around. I'll keep that in the bid folder. After you have your discussion and you've completed your score sheets, you can turn those into me and I'll tabulate them, and then we can discuss how y'all see fit as far as interviews goes, how many you want to interview, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Board, do we have any discussion on Ms. McCall?
I have a question, Mr. Collins. On the Florida School Board Association, and I don't know if this was an error, but on, I guess it would be page 28 of their proposal, where it says total proposed cost is $45,000, but then up above it says $30,000. On others, when we saw that, there was travel and hotel rooms added to it. So I just had a question. Do you think the direct expenses adds up to $15,000? I was just a little confused.
Which page is that?
Florida School Board Association,
Which page? What page?
page 28. So when we were looking at the others' cost, they would have the total proposed cost, but then they also had a travel budget.
Right.
And this says, do not add travel, but I have to assume,
Right, and if you look on a few pages down, they have their travel cost estimates listed, and those are $2,540 to $3,620.
okay,
So that would not add up to that.
still doesn't add up to that.
Right.
So
Correct.
I don't know if it's a clerical
Calculation.
error. Is there any way we can
We can-
clarify?
I can send them an email right now and ask them to clarify that.
Would you do that for me,
They will
please?
answer back.
I just couldn't find where that added up. On all the others, I could find where their total cost added up. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other discussion?
I did not, I just ranked mine, like, looking at the book. I did not have a way to print out the sheet. My computer, my printer, my air printer is not working, so if someone, I've already done it. I've written it on the front of the books. I just need something to write it on.
So,
Some sheet, blank sheet.
can we
Need a
get
blank
some,
sheet. I got
blank
it.
about, you have some?
I just need the sheets because I wrote it on the booklets.
I have one set.
Let me go run and see if I can't get Nicole. Okay, thanks. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't pass it down.
Any further discussion? Why don't we take we're going to have to take a recess and let Miss Stacy
Just have to fill the sheets out.
Do
I've
these,
already
if
written
you
it.
want, do you want to go ahead and calculate these
Well,
until
let
you
me
get?
let me try to get clarification on this.
Okay.
And
that way-
I do have one more question.
Yeah, and I have a couple things too.
When we're scoring on the cost of services, I'm assuming, but I need to know for sure, that it goes from the lowest cost being maybe a 10 to the highest cost going down. Is that how it's supposed to be?
Well, so we don't.
Or is it ROI?
We don't stipulate in the document how you're supposed to score that. It's up to each individual's
how we
discretion,
feel.
how you want to.
Okay.
What do we,
Scale those.
our value?
Depend on our value on the services provide. So this was difficult for me because I wasn't,
Right.
because the lowest was not.
Right, and I did too, and I remember even when we were going through the process, I even think as a board at one point, we even discussed that, I mean, cost is important to us, but that's not gonna be the factor.
Driving factor.
Right, and so maybe, I do remember us, so discussing that.
And, thank you.
I haven't scored FSBA yet because of,
There was one I had, for HYA. They, and maybe mine got cut off. On page 13, number 10, I didn't see an answer to that question.
what page, Eric?
13. And I'm just thinking,
Oh, I think I noticed that too.
was it just out of my book, or did it not answer? Did they just not answer that question?
You say question number 10?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it skips right over then to scope of services.
Mm-hmm.
So it
So it didn't
does
answer.
have. Yeah. That is correct. They were the ones that didn't have that.
Okay. And I was looking, when I read it, I was trying to see if they may have answered it somewhere else in the book. I didn't see that.
So on the very back, and I didn't know, they have their superintendent search history with their references, and it goes all the way back to 2015. So I don't know if that, actually it goes back to 2014. So I don't know if
If they were considering
that was,
as-
if they were considering that to answer number 6, but it's really not clear.
Okay.
That one is,
Kelly, maybe we should just talk about, how we rank them, because there may not, you may have all chosen the same few.
And I have 6 total thumb drives, but it looks like there's a firm here that's not represented. Did we have 7 or 6?
6.
6.
Okay, so, and I have 6 here, but one of the titles is not matching. So we have, we have FSBA, Ray and Associates, McPherson and Jacobson, Baker Tilly,
Correct.
ECRA,
Oh, on that thumb drive, that must be a group that they're a part of. I believe
Yeah,
that
it is.
was Hazard, Young.
Hazard.
ECRA is Hazard.
I believe that was their what was on their thumb drive.
Is it Baker Tilly? Because Baker Tilly says now joined with Springstead and Umbar or something.
No, it wouldn't be Baker Tilly because Baker Tilly didn't have really much experience in superintendent searches, and I know Hazard does,
Right, that's fine.
but I'm confused about that.
Right. I believe their thumb drive did have that little group name on it.
Yeah. The one that looks like a key, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure it was
You're
together.
Do we have any other questions?
I'll have this ready in just a second, because I made all my notes in my books.
Okay.
Is it appropriate to share like our impressions or not? We should just,
Rick,
just wait on everything. Wait till she gets there.
Ms. Throer asked the question, is it okay if we share our thoughts with each other, or should we just wait and you score them and then move from there?
You can make comment about it. Just don't project any, personal feelings or whatever. You can state what you liked about proposals, that sort of talk, but just don't get real in-depth of,
okay. Because I did think it was interesting, there was such a variety of experience that was represented to us. Basically, one with absolutely no experience in doing a superintendent search, all the way up to one with 44 years of experience and very extensive experience in the state of Florida. I also thought it was interesting for the most part that the cost was, pretty even across the board. So that really takes out that consideration as far as I'm concerned, even though we weren't going to emphasize that anyway, within reason. But I just thought that that was interesting, that most of them were really kind of right in line.
I
A couple of things that were on my mind.
agree. I will tell you what I did when I did score the cost. I just scored them all the same because they were all close to me, and that wasn't that a factor, and I didn't want that playing, so I just gave
I
one.
gave them all a
place.
10, whatever. Everybody got the same score, exactly what I
I
did.
think that was on that same wave, too. Yeah, I think that was too. That's interesting that we were thinking that same thought.
So maybe we ought to talk about, maybe we ought to look at our top 3 or 4, each of our top 3 and 4, and
So why don't we pull our top 3?
Well, let him score, and then we'll,
Oh,
but that's what we'll do. But you know what, while he's doing that, what we can decide before we even do the scores is how many do we think we would like to interview? Do we want to interview?
Two come to my mind.
3 come to my mind.
Yeah,
Three.
three is with me too.
3 for me.
I vacillated between 3 and 4, just because one was maybe kind of out there, but then I'm like, we don't know until we really talk to him, and, no, for me.
What is it? How
we
many?
could
It
do
was
3.
6?
There's 6.
6.
So 3.
I felt like there were, in my personal, I felt like there were 3 that had the experience that would make our board and our community feel comfortable with the search.
Yeah.
And that was my,
And I think I was able to narrow it down to 2 because of the fact that this is our first time and that it is just so critical to get a firm that has broad, deep experience and that has flexibility built in to work with us, because we're going to have questions as things come along and we don't want to be locked in, But I'd be happy to do 3 if there was a third one that y'all felt really strongly about too. So to me, that's a plus.
I think half of you, if we're evaluating half of the bunch.
Yeah.
That's
So
a fair
3.
number.
Okay.
50%.
as long as we agree on our 3, it may end up.
I know.
being 4.
We'll find out.
I believe we'll have, some of us will probably have the same ones in our top 3. I just believe that.
they're trying to track Ms. Messina down so that she can clarify that question for you.
It's not, I mean, it doesn't really change my mind. I just wanted clarification.
I got it, yeah.
Got 'em.
just made all my notes in my books, so here they, so we just stick them like this to you. Have y'all turned yours in?
I'm adding mine up real quick. Okay.
You're just adding each one? That's what you're doing?
You didn't want the tally on, did you?
Right, you don't have to total up the scores, because I'll plug them into the spreadsheet.
All right. I'm ready.
All ready? Okay. I'll try to tabulate quickly.
Okay,
It's gonna take time. Accuracy's key.
Hold on. I just like to do my own.
thank you.
So, who was your top three?
Well, we're being recorded. I think,
Let's wait.
can we recess?
We have someone
Mr.
that's a
Christians.
little overly
Can
exuberant.
can we recess while he's tabulating, so that way we're not, okay, thank you. So we're
On recess right now?
not yet.
And Leslie in here.
Oh, yeah, I gave it back. I didn't realize there was another one.
Go ahead, Mrs. Kelly.
Okay, all right, we are reconvening at 9:38 a.m. to discuss the superintendent search firm. Mr. Rick Collins scored our evaluation sheets.
Okay, I got clarification back. Those were their direct expenses estimate. That's what the difference was, so you were correct. Okay, after tabulating the scores, I will read out the point value for each one, and then I'll start with the top ranked and go down the list. So Ray and Associates came in at 66.6 total points. Second place was McPherson and Jacobson at 61.8 points. Number 3 was Florida School Boards Association.
Exactly my ranking.
At 60.
Exactly.
Number 4, Hazard Young, Atea and Associates at 55.4. 5 was Baker, Tilly, Virchow, and Kraus at 46.2. And 6th was Fast Track Staffing at 35.6.
35.6.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the McPherson?
61.8.
61.8, okay, thank you.
And FSBA was
60.
60.
That was my exact order.
Mine too.
Exact order.
Okay, so
Top 3.
So those were my top
My
three,
exact
too.
order.
That's why I said we could have,
just,
we got the bottom 2 and the top 1.
okay, so
Who's your number 1?
as a board, do we agree that we want to interview the top 3?
Yes.
Okay, so we would like to interview the top 3.
Top 3, okay.
That's so interesting.
All right.
I'd kind of like to hear from Hazard too, but that
So I will send invites to them, letting them know we've already got the meeting scheduled. They should be aware of the date already because it was in the RFP. How do y'all want to set the schedule? Do you want to do it by alphabetical order or by ranking? That's totally
let's
up to
just
y'all.
be fair, just do it
And
alphabetically.
just do it alphabetical order.
Okay.
alphabetically.
And Rick, what normally, do we spend an hour with each one?
If you're doing 3, let's see, what did we had a 9 o'clock start time? Or we didn't have a start time actually listed. So
Well, we have the 1 o'clock in the
we
afternoon.
have the 1 o'clock
So
is
we have to
the,
be done in time for the 1 o'clock to take place.
right. So if you wanted to start at 8:30,
On the 25th.
the
25th.
25th.
It says 8:30 on the,
8/20,
On mine,
April
so-
25th.
Okay.
we're convening at 8:30, so you have basically 8:30, and as long as you're done by 1, and you can convene. So if you want a lunch break, you need to factor that in to your day.
So what day is the 25th?
So
Thursday.
Thursday.
It's a Thursday. the
So if we did 8:30 to 9:30, and then a 15-minute break, 9:45 to 10:45, and then 11 to 12, and then there's a break till 1.
Okay.
That would be all 3, right?
That's our 3, and so that way that gives us that 15-minute break in between, so they can get set up and we can have a little recess.
Meeting, so I guess we
Works.
And so what happens after, at the end of the interviews, then what's the process,
So
Rick?
at 1 o'clock, I'll have a score sheet ready for you. I'll hand out that day.
Okay,
You'll score the interview portion, which was the 30-point score.
okay,
That'll get added to this initial scoring for the top 3.
okay,
And that'll be your top
Okay.
rated proposer. And then we will attempt to negotiate a contract with them.
okay.
Okay, good.
So we should know that day.
On the
Good,
25th.
okay.
Right. Nobody had a lot of, many exceptions or anything like that to our terms and conditions of the RFP, so I don't foresee a lot of issues with negotiating a contract, and we're good at it, so that should be no problem. So that'll work. I will send them an invite out today. The next thing is kind of the order of the interview. Do you want them to provide some sort of presentation? Do you want to give them any guidance on what to present? And then secondly, do you want to create a list of questions that we give all 3 that you want answers from, exact answers for, and then let them have a portion to make any kind of presentation they want?
Yeah.
What What have other communities done?
For this particular service, I'm not, I couldn't answer that, I don't know. Typically, when in an RFP process, we'll give them a couple of questions. The committee will come up with a couple of questions that are very important to y'all. Kind of like the meat and potatoes of what you want to make sure they cover. And then
Some questions down.
you can, and then we usually let them have some time to, they kind of put their best foot forward and tell you what they've done that's been great and all that good stuff, so.
I mean, we've all read the profiles, so I mean, those questions that stick out in our head right now, we probably could.
Well, let's go ahead while we're all together and
Yeah.
decide what those questions are.
Okay,
And because I like to give those to the proposers up front, they have time to make a, prepared response.
right. And I also think at the beginning, they should give us a little bit of a presentation so we can get a feel for them. So what would be a good timeframe? Are we thinking for that?
30 minutes?
We're thinking 30?
That's a long
I was
time.
thinking maybe 20. Okay, so for, let's say, presentation.
They have an hour, the interview is an hour, correct?
Right.
Correct.
But if you don't come up with a lot of questions and you want to do a 20-minute presentation, we could shorten down the time slot a little bit too, if you would like. Because they may end up, if we hold them to the 20-minute presentation and we have 5 questions, we may be done in 30 minutes. And then we'd have to, sit and wait till.
Okay. Well, let's gather our questions and then we'll know from
Okay.
that
Right.
probably. All right.
So one major question is, why should we choose your firm?
I like that. Because they'll all get a chance to share that with us.
Any other suggestions?
Something along the lines of, on our job description, we have right at the top, a superintendent of schools should work with the board to create a vision for the future and then work to communicate it effectively internally and externally and focus on its implementation. A question about how would you work with us to make our vision a reality? And I know that needs to be tightened up, but
Or would that be for the superintendent or for the search committee?
So, yeah, this is for the search firm.
right. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking a little bit ahead.
So one of the questions.
But they need to know what our vision is to help tailor their search. I think
Right.
that's where I was going.
I got you. One of
In
my
terms of finding
issues,
candidates
one of my issues
that
is
match our vision.
that how are they going to look at diverse groups? I know the 2 or 3 that we all had on there, they looked at Latinos, they looked at the National Black Schools Association. I want to make sure that I'm not thinking how the questions would be formulated, but
Like with diversity?
How would you build diversity into your,
your search, yeah, something to that effect. I like to hear it more so than them just writing it.
So I think one of the important things is how do they profile candidates, not profile, how do they look for candidates that would fit into the culture of Marion County?
Public schools, exactly.
What are the steps they would take to, number one, learn our culture, and how would they look for the candidates that would fit into that culture?
Right.
So how would they assess a candidate's adaptability to Marion County?
Well, it's not just Marion County, it's the culture
The
that
culture of
we
Marion County.
create within the school board, because if they don't, within the school system. So there are,
What's that
hold
question?
on. How do they assess candidates' ability to fit into the culture of Marion County Public Schools? Now, there may be a better
I
way.
would like to put the word, the diverse culture in Marion County schools. So they understand where we're hitting on. What do you think? To reach the diverse culture, meet the diverse culture, because culture, I mean, you could look at religion, you could look at this and that,
Well,
but I
I'm
like
looking
diverse culture.
Yes, but I'm looking more at, when we look at our strategic plan and the communication and all of that, the administrative culture, just, the culture of the district on a whole, and then I think we can look at the diverse.
I would just say how they assess and meet the diverse culture of our community, just however else. But I think the word diverse to point them in that direction clearly without dancing around it.
We're also capturing that with
Eric's
Mr. Cummings' question, too. I'm trying to figure out a way to circle them back to, what we say, what we've said in our job description.
Restate that question again, Beth?
How do they assess the candidate to know if they will fit into the culture of Marion County Public School System? But there may be a better way to say that. I've got a whole group of questions, and I should have brought them from the house.
What were you saying, Ms. Stacy?
I was just going to put the word diverse in front of culture,
Which is always good.
just to
Reemphasize.
get it clear.
Well, in number 2, the second question was how would you build diversity into your search? Would that cover that?
That probably will.
Okay. And what was your Nancy throw?
Still working on it.
Hold on, I'm looking.
You know what, Nancy, repeat it. Let's see if we can't help you out. Like, what?
Okay, well, what we have here is a superintendent of schools should work with the board to create a vision for the future and then work to communicate it effectively internally and externally, which hits the community piece, and focus on its implementation. And so far, all I had written down, I was trying to condense it, please share how you will recruit candidates that will match our vision of effective internal and external communication and implementation, but that's not right, but.
No, you're about there.
Yeah.
Well, and that could go along, because that is part of the
Culture.
culture that we
That's
have
the
to
culture.
create.
That's the culture.
And I like how we had it very specific, but, internally, because there is an internal culture in Marion County Public Schools, and there's also the external
Internal and external.
community, the business community, the families.
Community as a whole,
Right.
I noticed when we were reading this, sometimes they would talk about transitioning also. I think maybe that would be a good question, maybe, to help assist with the transitioning of the internal and external. You know what I mean? Like, so they, not just throwing them out there and like.
Right, because this
Right.
is our first hired superintendent, and so that's a great point, I think. It is about the transition because this is new.
Say it again, Kelly.
What did I say?
I just got transitioning.
Maybe, how can they help assist or implement the transition of the superintendent into, does that sound appropriate or okay? I'm just throwing that out there.
I would. They assess the board or the candidate?
Candidate.
How would they
I'm
assist
thinking the candidate would need,
assist the candidate with the transitioning?
Or how would they work with the board to assist the candidate? Because it's a collaborative effort, and a couple of those spoke to
Some of them said
transition.
specifically, yeah.
Yes, very
So
specific.
that's good. How would they
Executive
assist the board?
coaching and things like that, which we don't want to put words in their mouth, but that, yeah.
Assist the board. In the transitioning.
Of this new venture.
Adventure.
Of this new venture, adventure.
It's all so new to us.
Makes it exciting.
Yeah, I'm searching to see.
Have anything more succinct over there, Mr. Collins?
I'm gonna read them back to y'all when you're done. Make sure I have them,
There was
have 'em
some,
right. I got a lot of scribbles.
Yeah.
there was some that gave some like extensive timeframes. Some there was one that had like a very short time.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
It was like
They-
3 months or
Yeah,
something.
they were
I don't
gonna
think
start
that
like in
was
August.
15
and-
minutes.
I don't think that was one of our top.
No,
That
I don't
wasn't
think
one
it
of
was
the top
either.
three.
Fast track.
They're gonna be through in
Right.
December.
Total fast track. Yeah, okay.
That was
And I'm
fast
all
track.
about time management,
Was that
but that
fast
was a
track?
little extreme, yeah. We don't know what we're doing, but we just said we were gonna do it.
If you're moving just somebody in from, that's already a deputy into that spot, you know, I could see that, but
Right.
no.
So we're broken, so
what
right now we
St.
have
John's
3
did, and that's
separate
what
questions.
Brevard
We've
did.
got the transition one, we've
We
got
got
the culture
4.
one, and we have the diversity one.
We got
What's
4.
the 4th?
We got why should you
Oh, yeah,
use your
and
firm?
the, yes.
How would you build diversity into your search? How do you assess a candidate's ability to know if they will fit into the culture of Marion County school system?
That's good.
How would they assist the board in the transitioning of this new venture? I
But-
could.
And
I
we
ran
don't
out of
want
words
any
for
more
that.
than 4 questions, right? Because we're only giving them 30 minutes.
I'll give them one. I give them one more.
You think 5?
So
yeah,
they-
she just has a question.
So are these the questions for their presentations, or are these the questions that they'll have to answer to us?
I think we should do off the cuff,
These are the ones they will answer to us, wouldn't it be?
because they're gonna have their own spiel that they're gonna.
Yeah, I'm not sure we want to send them the
Yeah,
questions.
so we could just
I
ask.
want to know, yeah, I mean, we want
So we'll
them.
ask them all the same thing, but we
Yeah.
won't send it to them.
Right.
So I think they have 20 minutes to sell their firm to us, and then we will ask questions, but I don't think we ought to tell them what the questions are. I'd like to see
They
how
could be
they,
listening to
board
this
meeting
right
right
now.
I was gonna say,
I was gonna say-
this is live stream, they're probably gonna know.
Yeah.
Well,
What-
those aren't for sure though, and we could change them.
Well,
I like Nancy Thrower.
Me too. I like.
you just need, you know,
She thinks on her feet.
you should probably, you know, you need to
She's a
ask
mother
the
of
same
boys.
questions of
Oh,
each
she gotta think
vendor.
on your
oh,
feet, don't
and
you?
they, like we did in the external operator search, the same questions to the vendors.
Now, if they say something that, you know, spurs, you need clarification or something like that, you can ask them a follow-up, but we need to, you know, we need to be fair and ask them the same.
Although,
Since
wouldn't we
this is
just
a
repeat
public-
the same question?
Since this is a
Because-
public meeting, I don't have a problem with them knowing those 4 questions, and then if we have something, I mean, they can prepare and give us the right answer. I don't have a problem with them preparing a good answer for us on that.
I'd like to build in something though, where they have to give us a spontaneous.
Well, then we can each ask a quick question or
Do
something.
that.
That could be based on their presentation, based on what we hear.
Or didn't hear, right, that we want more information about.
So they may give us some, when they do answer our 4 questions, we might, at the end of each question, the board might have something that
Chances
alert,
to
a
follow
flag went up or
questions.
something, and they wanted to ask a question.
So I think that's a great idea. When we did the external operator questions, we did not, they were the exact same questions. Nobody could elaborate, nobody could question further.
Weren't those
but
the rules?
Those were the rules we established.
Okay.
It was not rules, there were no rules anywhere, but, I mean, so if we want to, you know, expand on,
You should have that.
Very
Right.
brief,
We
and we
should.
understand as a board, it would just be a very brief,
Yeah.
like 1-minute response, or,
I mean, we should have that ability to
Yeah.
question,
I-
based on what they say in the presentation. Because it may trigger, that was why I had questions, because we couldn't answer.
Right.
We had to stick to those same questions.
Right, and
If
we
we-
just repeated the question if they didn't seem to understand it,
Right.
or asked.
but
you
I
know.
think this is a little different.
but I
Right.
think we should say, just give a 1-minute response or something. Like, if you have a question, you know, a 1-minute response, you know, like a quick, or we could drag this into the next, I mean, some of these guys,
Well, I
these are
think-
educators, they can go on forever.
Well, I think we're on a time frame, and when the time's up, the time's up.
Time's up.
And we
Yeah,
time
but all
it.
board members might not have gotten to ask their question, though.
But if
Should we
we
give them
say-
1 minute for a
but if we
response?
They need to have a
say-
timeline on a response period. They could just go way long.
We've got the visual.
When the board did my interview, it was, you guys had your questions, but I was set, you guys had that time. So once I sat down, my time was running. If I didn't get through all the questions, I just didn't get finished with the interview. So I'm assuming that was the way it was done for the other candidates. I wasn't in the room, but I
It
don't know
was.
if everybody got through all the questions. I think I got through all mine and finished early, but
You
Well, then-
did, but we didn't let you know the questions. We
I know, yeah,
each
I
had
didn't
them,
know
and
them,
then
but.
we asked. is
But that,
what
I
we
would
did.
take that same approach here, that would be my recommendation, is like, if they don't get through the thing, then they don't get through the thing. They need to understand, you all may have questions, if they're being long-winded, that goes to kind of, you answer the question and you don't run on for half an hour
Right.
off topic, so.
And I can communicate that in the interview invite. I'll say, you have this a lot of time for a presentation. We're going to have these
They hear it.
questions. But, you know, you
I
need
think
to be
everything needs
prepared
to-
for follow-up questions.
I think they need to have a time, like, to answer, like, our 4 questions, however many minutes on this question, this question.
If we're sending them questions, I would tell them to build the 4 into their presentation.
Right, that's
presentation.
probably.
And they're answering your 4 questions in their 20 minutes. If you're going to stick to the hour, that leaves them 40 minutes, which is a substantial amount of time to answer questions off the cuff, so.
Yeah, I think that's too much.
I think that's too
Well, then
much
should we
time.
stretch them to 30 minutes if they have to answer our questions? If, by the time they can't tell us much about ourselves, if they're answering these 4 questions, that might not be,
that's-
I still think they need to
You guys-
talk to us about
They're firm.
their firm.
Make
And
us
then,
comfortable with that.
give us a 10-minute about that, and then they can go into our questions for the next 15 minutes or whatever.
If you guys want to split it, half an hour for their presentation and answering your 4 questions, and that leaves half an hour for your follow-ups. That's still a good amount of time to answer questions.
I'm comfortable with that, and some will not take that much time.
Right.
I'm thinking 15 minutes is enough for them to present.
And to answer those 4
No,
questions?
no.
But if we're going to ask
And then
them to
another
build
15 to-
those
Or build that
into
into
the
the,
presentation,
All right,
They can answer that.
15s isn't enough.
I'd like them to have a
5 minutes
15-minute
apiece.
presentation, and then they can
Per
have a
question?
15-minute
20
response to our 4 questions, and then we have 30 minutes to question them.
But if you're asking them to answer those at 5 minutes, that's 20 minutes.
That's 20 minutes.
And then you want them to also have time to sell their company on it.
Yeah.
So,
That's another
Another
15.
5 minutes.
if you gave them 30 minutes, it'd be 10 minutes. So 10 minutes to sell the company.
Okay, that's fine.
20 minutes to answer your questions, 30 minutes for off the cuff or follow-up.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine. That sounds
30
good.
That's
30.
Sound okay?
And now, some of them are going to,
Some of them going to go shorter.
I mean, some of them are going to, I'd like them to have the flexibility that if they want to build these questions into their presentation, I just say we do 30 minutes and 30 minutes. Because I don't want to
30
dictate
30
how,
30 questions.
I don't want to dictate how they decide to answer these questions. Do they want to, are they more comfortable building them into their presentation
Which it might
about
be
selling
anyway.
the firm? And I mean, I think we're strapping them down because their presentations should be their presentations.
So
and
30
whether-
minutes to give their presentation and
And to
these 4
answer these
questions.
questions within their
That's what we
presentation.
did for external
Yeah.
operator.
Okay,
We
that's
had
fine.
presentation
Yeah.
questions ahead of time,
Yeah.
and they built that into.
Yes?
that's fine.
'Cause the
And
two
then
aren't
we
mutually
had separate
exclusive.
questions, off-the-cuff kind of questions. And to me, that's
But are they going
fair.
to need 30 minutes for the off the cuff?
They may not, but some of
And
them
we may not.
We may not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Once
'cause
all the
I-
questions are done, it's over, say thank you.
Okay.
Right,
So they'll give their presentation,
We're
and
done
then we'll
with
be
you.
making our notes for our questions
yeah.
at our question period time at the
Yeah.
next 30 minutes. So as they're talking about their stuff, then we just make our notes about item number 1, item number 2, and then in our 30 minutes, each board member asks those questions that we have recorded, that we have already.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
You got that, Rick?
30 minutes to make a presentation and answer the given questions.
Right.
And then 30 minutes to address any follow-up questions that may be spurned on by their presentation.
Okay.
Where we're gonna have to be careful, though, is making sure that each board member has a chance to ask a question without
If-
running over
if
the
they
time.
want to.
If they want to.
If they want to.
It'll work.
That's 30 minutes, and just in our past experience, 30 minutes is a good amount of time to be able to answer 5 questions, so.
And like you said.
And the
that's even-
chairman, I mean, you're sitting there, I mean, if
Yeah,
it's going
I
over,
know.
you can say, thank you, we need to move on, or whatever, because your time, you know how long we need.
Yeah.
We can,
And
We
Mr.
could run
Collins,
move and slow
Mr.
down.
Collins usually times them, so he'll stop them if
I'll
they're
give
running
them a
long on their
5-minute
presentation.
Hey, 5-minute heads up, and then a 1 minute, and then
Good.
if they're keeping going, we'll just cut them off and say, sorry, you're done.
So do you want to read back to us the questions?
Yes, ma'am, 'cause I probably need to reword them. I think why we should choose your firm should probably be like the last question, because that's kind of like a
Yeah, close out.
finalizer. How would you build diversity into your search? How do you assess a candidate to ensure the candidate will fit into the culture of Marion County School Board? Which I may need to tweak that
Marion
one.
County School.
Marion County Public
District.
Schools.
Okay, Marion County School District.
Do we want to say into the internal and external
Culture.
culture?
Of Marion County Public Schools.
Yeah, because the external culture of Marion County Public Schools is out in the community.
Right.
I mean, we don't want a wallflower who can't communicate.
Don't need that.
Okay. How do you assess a candidate to ensure the candidate will fit into the internal and external culture of Marion County School District?
Nice.
Okay. And number 4, how will you assist the board and the candidate during the transition in this new venture?
Good job.
Thank you.
In this new venture, do we have to qualify that by saying, considering the district is hiring a superintendent for the first time? Because we know what the new venture
Right.
is. I guess it may be implied.
It wouldn't hurt to add that.
It wouldn't hurt to add. That's a
Okay.
good idea. Just get everything real clear
Yeah, yeah.
for those who
Otherwise it
don't
seemed like a
understand.
hanging chad.
We don't count him because that Chad was hanging.
How will you assist the board and the candidate during the transition of this new venture of hiring a superintendent?
Or the transition from an elected superintendent to an appointed.
There you go. I like that,
That
yes.
is better. That flows better. And so those will be the 4 questions that they will build into their presentation,
Yes.
correct? So they all have that.
Okay, yep, I'll provide that to them today and give them the instructions so they all are well prepared. They'll know their timelines. I'll tell them they'll be on a strict clock, and we'll do alphabetical order. I think that's all that I need from y'all, so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You really.
Yeah, Rick, you
Helped us
made
with
this
this process.
very easy, and we appreciate.
good.
You are,
We're getting good.
you're doing really good.
So should we give you back those that are not in the running, but keep
You can,
those that
yes,
are?
yes, ma'am. If you made any notes in them, I just need to know, because if so, we need to keep those for,
I
you
just wrote their score on the wall.
I wrote all of them.
I did a few circles.
wrote in all of them? Okay, that's fine. I'll keep them in the
I
box.
want to keep the 3 that we.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Definitely hold on to those
McPherson
till the end.
Good.
Okay, board, do we have any other comments or discussion?
Beth. 1. So did I see
Seeing none?
2?
Those examples.
Beth and I had the exact same top 3
Do you
in
know
order.
do you know how unusual that is?
It's really not. It's really not. That's just talking points.
McPherson and FSBA were very close. So,
Stay
60
away
and
from the
61.
political forum. We'll get along fine.
Elena just reminded me, the other day at our agenda review meeting, I noticed last week at our school board meeting, things were moving quicker when we just did a verbal vote. And so I have requested that for the next, moving forward with our school board meetings, if we can just do verbal votes, and that way we can just move on rather than
Sit and wait.
sit and do it
I
on the,
am totally fine.
we're all fine with that.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Okay,
Bob.
Elena was fine with it too, so I was
Just
like,
make sure that you all just say,
So we speak up.
speak up so
Do we have
that
to write a
don't
name
have
in
any-
those?
Everyone can hear.
Sir?
Do we need to write names in those?
Um,
I didn't write my name in them. I just wrote notes and.
probably so.
I've got a few notes in mind, but I don't.
I didn't write my name
I
in
got-
because I went off the thumb drives anyway.
So we supposed to put our name on them?
here's one.
That would be best in case we ever do get a public records request.
Even if I didn't put any notes in it?
If you didn't put any notes in it, you don't need your name in it.
All that's on mine is the score that you gave out. I
Okay.
didn't write in them.
The ones that I didn't have any interest in whatsoever, I just went, but Beth and I went 1, 2, 3, exact same 3. And those I do have notes in. And I had, I think, a note on one of those. I think it was this one.
I gotta find which one.
As far as public records go, I keep the originals in our office at all times, so they, until,
Ones I had no interest in whatsoever.
And here's
good.
my thumb drives for those. And then I kept these.
I had some notes on the front of one. I may have
Did
circled
you
some
meet with
things.
David Herlihy like the rest of us did on this?
Absolutely not. We'll go do it.
It'll answer a lot of questions.
We'll go do it. It's just been a crazy couple of weeks.
Paul, I didn't get that one. No, but I
I
didn't,
had on my list to do about 14
not really. I mean,
other things.
that really wasn't.
Fine. Do I sign it?
Here you go, Paul. I just wrote
maybe
across
the
the
first
top.
page,
Yeah.
the cover sheet, the check, whatever, is easy to find.
And you said you need the jump drives back too.
I forgot my thumb drives. Can I bring them
Sure, that's
next
fine.
time? Okay.
Next time.
On the inside. Most of them that I didn't really, I discounted us, but I didn't have much to say to those people.
Okay, here's all mine.
What were your top three in order?
Ray, Hazard,
You made this very easy.
McPherson.
Thank
The
you
only
so
reason
much.
I didn't put FFA higher is because if we already do so much work with them,
And there's stuff that well, I guess we're gonna be,
but yet they're so
Wanna be interviewing
knowledgeable,
them.
you know, so there's a.
they were my third choice.
The reason why I didn't add Lewis other conditions is they badmouth another firm. And badmouth Ray, and I was like, hey, stand on your own laurels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that.
Yeah,
But
The
they-
McPherson,
because that's our competition.
Right.
it is their competition.
And they're all in competition, you know. They didn't have to do that.
All right, we ready? Okay, with any other board concerns or discussion? Seeing none. With no further business, our meeting is adjourned at 10:10 a.m.
It'll be a record.